First things first, this is only going to cover real human crushes with people I had contact with, and this is because I have a different group style video planned regarding anything else like characters, celebrities, etc. You'll notice that I haven't not had feelings for someone since before 2007, so between 2007 and 2024, there were feelings for people. I mean, there still are now. Whatever. No, it's strange trying not to now. It feels wrong and unknown, but anyway, childhood crushes. Some might say that I was an early bloomer when it came to crushes, since my first one developed when I was in kindergarten. Let's call this girl Abba. Because I was an incredibly shy child, I never made any advances or vocalized my feelings between kindergarten and first grade when we were in the same classes. We were relatively good friends, though, with our moms becoming friends and her best friend at the time being who I saw as my arch nemesis. She's going to come into play later, so let's call her Tsubomi. If you know, you know. But in first grade, I vaguely remember the two of them chasing around me and my friend. Let's call him Prey, around the schoolyard at recess. Anyway, Abba did eventually learn my feelings against my own wishes. About halfway through first grade, though, we all sat in a big circle, and there was this kid next to me named Jonathan, and we were having a quiet time with the lights off or something, and I was biding my time by drawing a picture of Abba and I getting married, and on it said, "Will you marry me?" Now, that little fucker, well, I say little, but he was much taller than me, but he snatched my drawing, held it up, and in front of the whole class to Abba across the room yells, "Abba, Anthony wants to marry you." I was gonna say I've never wanted to kill anyone more than I did there, but I very much have. Anyway, I snatched it out of his hands and denied all charges the best I could. It didn't affect our dynamic, thankfully, since looking back, she probably knew I liked her anyway. I've never really been discreet in that regard. However, at the end of first grade, she moved away much to everyone's surprise, and we never heard from her again. Now, I'm not 100% sure about this next one, because I don't know if I actually had feelings or not. But we'll assume I did. During second grade, I got really close to this girl we can call Garfield. I have very obscure reasons for that, just trust the process here because I'm not going to explain it. So we were essentially best friends throughout that year since she lived up a few roads over, and we took the same bus to and from school every day. 9 times out of 10, we would sit together on the bus as well, and I think we used to play together at school a lot too, also in part because she was once again friends with Tsubomi. Now, Garfield and I had hung out a few times outside of school at my house and stuff, but I never really thought anything of it besides us being really close friends. Like, for a short bit, for some reason, we were really into ghosts too, which I mean, every kid probably has a similar phase. The point here being that we would usually be into a lot of the same stuff. Hell, I'll explain this too. So during the first grade year, I think, she went on a trip to Bermuda, and I was worried she would die in the triangle. So, being the slick that I am, I decided I'd make her a parting gift. At the time, my brother and I were making our own hats using fabric markers and white hats from Michael's, so I ended up making her a Garfield hat before she left. See? You thought I wouldn't explain it because I said I wouldn't, but I still did. But anyway, the only problem in my plan, however, was that I finished it and brought it to school to give it to her the day after she left. I think that was a Monday, and she left over the weekend, so can't really help that. So I had to wait until she got back, and I'm pretty sure I gave it to her. I don't know if I had it afterwards. I have it's a little fuzzy. I feel like I either kept it or I did give it to her. I feel like I did, or maybe I didn't because I was too chicken. Either way, I don't have it now. So, anyway, now that I think about it, I tend to make things for my crushes more often than not, like handmade stuff, artistic. Which I mean, makes sense, I'm an artistic guy. Anyway, on to the meat and potatoes here. One day at the end of class, I remember us lining up to get on the buses at the end of the hallway by the entrance. Normal stuff every day. And my bus was always called first, so Garfield and I were walking together in the hallway. And she turns to me and starts begging me basically to be on her team for some game that was being planned for recess the next day. I think I was originally on the other team, and maybe it was dodgeball, but I'm not sure. Probably kickball, now that I think about it. We played a lot of kickball. No matter what, though, it was a bad decision with how weak and uncoordinated I was. So, anyway, being her friend, I agreed to be on her team, and she became ecstatic. Being her friend, I agreed to be on her team, and she became ecstatic, happily standing on her toes. She was a little shorter than me, by the way, and kissing me on the forehead before thanking me and running off. I was so dumbfounded then that I ran to one of my friends on a different bus in their line to tell them what had happened. I'm pretty sure he downplayed its importance, but looking back at everything, I think she might have had feelings for me. That would make her potentially one of only two, which, I mean, 2 is better than the 1 that I'm absolutely sure about. Now, I've tried to verify it in recent years, but I never got a response on that. And, that would have been nice for my ego and mental health to know that someone other than my singular ex has ever had romantic interest in me, but, it could just be me looking too much into things. And it just wasn't meant to be either way, since she switched into the opposite class going into 3rd grade. This all also might have been a year earlier, in 1st grade, but I have no way to be sure or verify because I've tried before recording this and no one responded. The one person I asked didn't respond. So, yeah. About halfway through 3rd grade, though, a crush that would last the next 7 or 8 years would regrettably begin. Yes, I fell for Tsubomi. At this point, all my other friends from 1st grade were gone. Bray moved away, Abba was gone, and Garfield was in the other class, so essentially gone as well. We were never friends again after that, by the way, so of the original groups, it was only Tsubomi and I left. I never told her, though, and hid my feelings for years. At some point, though, I remember one of my friends, I think this was at that same year in 3rd grade, and it was the same friend who I went to after Garfield kissed my forehead. And they asked, I'm sitting with them, Tsubomi's across from us, some other people, and he asked Tsubomi if she would ever date me. Neither had any idea I liked her, and it was out of nowhere for me, but at the same time she was sitting, she's directly across, and I'll never forget the ew no that came out of her. My heart was crushed, and I basically had to just brush it off and be like, hey, stop that, you weirdo. Haha, kill me. To my friend, but behind the scenes, I still didn't give up because it's me. And that only caused it to fester and build over time.
The emotions locked away deep inside his heart expand little by little, moment by moment. However, there's a limit to how much his emotions can take before leaking out and going wild. And now, an emotion is swirling around inside him like a torrential hurricane, going past the limit.
The next time we were in the same class was in 8th grade. In between, during 6th grade, I tried to ask her to a dance, but was too shy and scared of both professing my feelings and that she would say no. Case in point of said anxiety being anxious, quiet greetings when I passed her in the hallway that I don't think she ever noticed because she probably couldn't hear it. So with the dance, I ended up sending her a number 2 letter code on Facebook that was like, will you go to the dance with me or something? And I was just turned away because I wouldn't tell her the solution, which, I mean, I can't really blame her. It's a pain in the ass. Who the hell wants to deal with that at like 8 in the morning? So whatever. So yeah. But maybe if I had actually given her the solution, what happened a few years later might not have occurred. Not because we would have been together at some point, but just I would have been more attached to reality. So yeah, in 8th grade, I found a redacted for legal reasons, and it eventually spread to everyone, mostly of my own doing, regrettably. And she found out, and I eventually came to my senses after a roughly month-long fugue state / autistic high. And I ended up apologizing indirectly through a note I had my friend give her on the last day once I was already on the bus. And she texted me through his phone and made a good point that I didn't have to show anyone, and my apology was not accepted, which I didn't expect it to be. I just wanted, I never not take responsibility for things I've done. It's just not right. You should take if you do something wrong, if you hurt someone, you should take responsibility. This is going to be a running theme for the rest of this channel's life. It's probably going to become a meme at some point if this ever takes off. But anyway, I still feel bad for that, and thinking about it still hurts. And, we ended up having classes together again in high school the next year, I tried to make up for it where I could, like offering her my umbrella on a rainy day after finally building the courage to on my birthday. She didn't want it, but I was still proud of myself at that point for at least attempting to talk to her again, since I only really wanted to do so if it was helping. I didn't really have any right otherwise in my own eyes. I also offered her my coat one chilly day in 8th grade too, but was turned down in both scenarios here. I tried to be friendly in our junior year in criminal justice, but it didn't really go all that well either. Throughout the entire time I liked Tsubomi, I never had a chance. There was always someone more popular, athletic, taller, or better looking that she would always be more interested in me. Pretty sure she started dating in elementary too, so you know what happens with those people. I'm looking at you. Anyway, I'm emotionally immature. This was this isn't about Tsubomi. Tsubomi, you're if you happen to see this, that I'm not talking about you. Don't worry. Nothing against you here. You did nothing to me wrong. It was all me. But yeah, all this was especially with being more interested, it was especially the case when we weren't in the same classes or even friends later on. It hurt, and maybe deep down some part of me wanted to cause her pain. I don't want to believe that was the case, but I don't know what was going on in my head back then. I've apologized again since then as well, within the past year when I was high or something, but it still fell on deaf ears because I was high, and why am I doing this however many years later? At least once junior year hit, I finally was able to get myself to move on, even if I still suffered. So junior year, I ended up falling for a girl in 3 of my classes that we can call Craig. Again, there's a reason that I actually won't get into this time because it doesn't fit the story, and it's also weird and obscure, and I just don't care. Anyway, for the first time, it was a girl that shared the same interests as me, high intellectual, English and writing skills, video games, etc. And we had somewhat the same friend group. I was warned by a friend though, and really, I should have listened to them. Granted, I was a bit of an ass at times, multiple times to her. Not an outright jerk, just, kind of a passive awkward jerk. Just being bad with rejection and stuff. It was just weird, and I don't want to talk about that. That's beyond what I'm willing to talk about on this channel. This is where I draw the line on, because it's very specific. So, November 2018, we were both working at different polling places, and we're texting throughout the day, and we called each other on Snapchat during our coordinated break because we coordinated to have them at the same time. They were at different times, but we could take them whenever, but we tried to coordinate them as best we could. I believe it was with video, but don't quote me on that, not that it really matters. And at the end of the day, around 8 or 9, I texted her asking if she wanted to go to winter ball with me. And she responded that she was already going with someone from another school, and I kind of just awkwardly was like, it's okay, I'm ascending to a higher plane of existence and knowledge, blah blah blah. Very weird. It might have been a lie though, because as far as I could tell, she went alone, and I don't want to say that that's definite, but that's at least my own headcanon. Either way, I was depressed for a few weeks after that, severely. Fast forward a little bit to later in December that year with our Italian club's trip to New York City. I grabbed her a New York City cup for Christmas there, and that's kind of where that ends. That's about it. Sometime after her, another friend, someone who will come up next, I'll call Emmy, and I went to Chili's and then back to our friend's house for card games. Now, Craig had to drive me because I didn't have a license yet. And for a little bit at our friend's house though, Emmy, who was probably my closest friend at the time, and I were left alone, and we talked about my situation since she knew everything that was going on. So then later in the night, she purposefully led our friend out of the room to find something while we were just playing cards, leaving Craig and I alone. Nothing of note happened, and it was kind of just awkward silence, and I wish I took better advantage of that time, but it would have meant nothing anyway. Things went bad from there, and eventually we kind of just drifted apart, and things ended up very, very awkward, with me trying to play off not liking her, which very clearly was probably very clearly was known to be false. And again, this seems to be a trend with me, but like I said, I'm very transparent with this stuff, which we are on better terms now, where we can be acquaintances, like we can have a normal conversation and kind of just can leave that behind us, especially since we're kind of going into the same profession. But over the next, we also work at the same place. But over the next year, I ended up unknowingly falling for Emmy while she was dating one of my friends. And sometimes I did cross the line. I never made advances, but I did say some things that I shouldn't have and gotten involved where I shouldn't have, which if either of you guys see this, I'm sorry. I had no right. But anyway, I saw Emmy as a sister, but behind the scenes, I didn't realize it developing into something else I never noticed that until probably a year later when I was already with my next partner, Cleopatra. And, we'll call her Cleopatra. If you know, you know. It changed me, and the part of me that ruined things with Craig reappeared and once again ruined things with her, and 5 years later, it would ruin things with Cleopatra. It was truly tragic for history to repeat like that, and I really should have gotten help all those years ago. If only I weren't so scared and stubborn and thinking it was all past me, but because little did I know that I was repeating all that bad history with the one person who had actually seemingly accepted me and would have given me the chance to get better from that. Based on all of this, I've found that it's likely that my attachment issues developed in elementary and middle school and worsened with each event in the timeline that brought them further and further to the forefront and stronger each time. Many important people in my life just kept leaving, and I spent 9 years meaning nothing to the same person, just screwing myself over and continuing to have false hope for a girl who didn't like me and never would. There was always someone better than me or someone leaving my life for other things, leaving me behind and even forgetting about me. And despite all my efforts, not a single person here has kept contact with me. I mean, no one really keeps contact with me. Garfield never spoke to me after 2nd grade. I never saw Abba again, though I'm pretty sure she's a model in Florida now, so good for her. Overall, just, if any of you see this, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
And, all the stuff with leaving would just be confirmed again, and all my anxieties and worries would be brought right back a few years later. It was like Kirby. Right back at ya.
Kirby, that's a name you should know. Kirby, he's the star of the show. He's more than you think, he's got maximum pink. Kirby's the one. He comes right back at ya. He comes right back at ya. Give it all that you got, take a very best shot. To send it right back at you for sure, yeah.
How can I help you, King DDD?
I need a monster to claw with that there Kirby.
That's what we do best at NME.